Hi, I'm Summer Hunter and welcome to this special edition of Beyond the Game. With the new season about to start, we're taking an in-depth look at the Formula One. I'm joined by motorsport contributor Jason Tahincigolu, who, as we attempt to preview what is set to be the most significant season in decades. With new owners, a shake-up of the rules, and potentially the fastest cars we've ever seen, this is the dawn of a new era in motorsport.
It's a new season and a new era for Formula One. A number of changes to the rules, the regulations and the cars mean that 2017 is set to be one of the most testing for the drivers yet. And the new owners of Formula One are hoping that it's one of the most competitive. It's only the 5th time in history that the reigning champion won't be defending his title. Nico Rosberg's retirement putting an end to one of the sport's fiercest rivalries with his former Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton. And with Rosberg's retirement, all eyes are now on Hamilton to see if he can secure his 4th world title.
I can't want it any more than I already do every year. So I want just right now just as much as I always have wanted it, which is a good sign.
Well, if Lewis Hamilton is to get his hands on another world title, it's not just his rival drivers he's going to have to contend with, but a number of changes to the cars as well. Firstly, they're bigger, they're longer and wider, further testing the drivers to their absolute limits. And the tyres are bigger as well, up to 25% in fact, leading to less degradation and fewer pit stops. The aerodynamics have changed, making cornering faster and overtaking more likely. And the starts, well, they're going to be manual, doing away with the automatic computers, further testing the driver's skills and temperament. And all of these changes have been made with one thing in mind: speed. And the signs from pre-season testing are positive, with up to 3 seconds knocked off lap times.
The cars are more enjoyable and they're going to be fast.
We will put all the drivers into a massive stress, so yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
Closer racing, less degradation when you're behind someone from the tires, so you can push a bit harder behind someone else, for a few more laps. So yeah, I think I'm just looking forward to that.
So, who are the main threats to Mercedes going to be? Well, Ferrari have looked good in testing and they've got good pedigree as well. They've got 2 former world champions on their books, including 4-time former winner Sebastian Vettel. He's driving alongside Kimi Räikkönen. In 2016, other than Mercedes, the only team to win a race was Red Bull. They've got Max Verstappen on their books. He's highly rated, the youngest ever winner of a Formula One race. Could he become the youngest ever world champion? He drives alongside Daniel Ricciardo. But the team to beat really are Mercedes. They won 19 races in 2016, a Formula One record. But Nico Rosberg's retirement has left big shoes to fill, and that responsibility has fallen to Valtteri Bottas. His relationship with Lewis Hamilton is going to be fascinating to watch.
It's a great challenge for everyone, but I think especially for me, this team has been winning the last 2 years, and it's kind of a dream come true for me to be in a team like this, so it's a big year ahead.
It's a big year for Formula One as well. It all begins in Melbourne. But there are plenty of unanswered questions about the future of Formula One, and the new owners will be hoping that they'll have laid out their vision for the sport by the time of the final race in Abu Dhabi in November. But the time for talking and the time for testing is over. The new season is upon us.
There's a lot to go over, so to help us work it all out, we can bring Jason Tahincigolu now into the mix. So it's been a very long off-season. There's so many changes that have been going on over the past couple of months. What are you most looking forward to about this season?
Well, I think a cracking season, honestly, because, the cars look awesome. They go much quicker now, and a new management, new owners. So I think as long as there's lots of drama, lots of passing, lots of good racing, I think it's going to be a heck of a season.
I think so indeed. It's lovely to have you here as well with us on the show. Now, 2017 is set to be a crucial year for Formula One racing, as a total revolution has been made within this sport. From technical changes to rule revisions, the sport's new American owners are trying to give a fresh new look to the F1 from the top down. The argument is that these changes will make racing better and more attractive for audiences. Now, someone who can certainly give us some real insight into all of this is F1 expert Maurice Hamilton, who's been covering the sport for decades. Maurice, lovely to have you on the show with us. Now, you've seen the sport change so many times over the years. Just how significant is this season for Formula One and for the sport?
Well, yeah, this is a big change. They felt that Formula One, if you like, was getting too easy, can you believe? They felt that the drivers were actually finding it, when they were getting out of the car, they weren't being stretched enough. Well, I can tell you from what we've seen so far, these new cars, they're a lot lower and faster and harder to drive, and they are going to be pushed more to the limit, which is what you would expect, because Formula One is the very pinnacle of motorsport.
Now, Ross Brawn is back in the mix. He's involved at the pointy end of the sport. How influential will his role be?
I cannot think of anybody better than Ross Brawn to take charge, because if you like, he's a poacher turned gamekeeper, because he's been there and done it. He's won world championships with Ferrari, with Benetton, and then running his own team with Jenson Button back in 2009. He's taken a couple of years out, which is very important, because the significance of that is that he's been able to stand back. You know, when you're involved in any sport, you're too close. You don't see the faults. He's been able to actually stand back and sit in his settee at home and watch the races and see what's right and what's wrong. And now he's come in and he knows exactly what they need to do. It's going to take time, but he knows exactly what they need to do. And the important thing also is that he won't take no for an answer, because he's been there and done it. They can't tell him, oh, we can't do this or we can't do that. They'll have to do what he says. And it's brilliant that he's there.
Okay, well, let's take a quick look at the new regulations. The drivers will have more control over their starts. Does that mean, or excuse me, over their starts and their changes? Do you think that means that the starts will have a much more pivotal role than in previous years?
I think what it means is there's more room for mistakes. That's what we want. You know, previously it was all out, almost, not quite, but almost out of the driver's control. The electronics of it, the way the car got rolling. Now it's down to more like you and me when we're trying to leave traffic lights. We're using the clutch and to feed the accelerator in to get away. So there's a bit more of that. So, you know, in the heat of the moment at the start of a Grand Prix, the driver should have more input. That's what it's all about. It's the World Championship of drivers, not of the World Championship of computer control behind them.
Now, very simply put, are these the fastest cars we've ever seen?
They are the fastest. They will be the fastest Formula One cars we've ever seen, I think. It's been a long time since we've had an upgrade like this in performance. So, yes, I think we can confidently say that. Certainly, they're going to be cornering. The thing is, you're going to, when you're spectating, and hopefully on television, we'll see they're cornering a lot faster. We're looking at between 4 and 5 seconds a lap faster. Now, that's a lot. In Formula One terms, you know, you normally talk tenths of a second. So to take 4 seconds a lap off a lap time, that's huge. So, yes, it's a significant improvement in performance.
Okay, but is faster synonymous with better racing? Can we expect to see much better racing from these drivers and from these cars this season?
That is a key question. That's a very good question. It's all very well making the cars go fast. Can they race? By that I mean, can they run in close company? So that if you're trying to overtake the car ahead, is your car going to be affected by the turbulence coming off the back of the car in front? Are you going to be able to get close enough to overtake and outbrake? We don't know yet. We're going to have to wait for the first race in Australia to see the answer to that one. So yes, it's all very well having a quick car, but is the setup of that car, are the aerodynamics and all the rest of it, is it going to work against the racing? There's a big question about that yet, and we haven't had all the answers.
Well, Maurice, thank you so very much for speaking with us. It's been a real pleasure. Now, Jason, you had a chance to listen to what Maurice had to say there.
Very well comments there.
What do you think about it? I mean, you having been there yourself as a driver, do you agree with a lot of the points that he had to say?
Yes, definitely. I mean, when you think about it, drivers want to drive something on the edge. And as Maurice said, these cars are 4 to 5 seconds quicker now. It's like a different category. I mean, if they used to pull 4 Gs in cornering, now they'll pull probably closer to 5. And that extra G really puts a hard amount of impact on your neck. I know that very well. So it'll be fun for them to drive. And I think they'll even feel better. I mean, from the comments we've seen, they enjoy driving car now because they see the physical challenge of it. They feel the amount of grip they have underneath them, and they can play with the car now as well. It's a racing car now, let's say. I mean, they're going to break a few sweats.
Okay, well, I'll put to you the same question they put to Maurice. Yeah. As a driver before, does faster mean better racing?
Not always, not always. I mean, if you're by yourself and you have a fast car you drive, obviously you're going to enjoy it. But racing is different because now the cars are very aerodynamically dependent, and if you have extra 30% downforce, doesn't mean you're going to be able to follow the car in front of you because there's a lot more turbulence now with all these little winglets and everything now you can see. The car is more sensitive now aerodynamically as well. Okay, the diffuser helps as well, but, you know, will they still be able to follow the car in front as well? I'm not too sure. We'll see, but no one seems to be optimistic yet.
Now let's talk about the preseason very briefly. It threw up a lot of questions for us, but how relevant is everything that we've seen during this preseason testing? How relevant is that for the season?
I mean, when you do preseason testing, you test pretty much everything. You test raw speed, you test durability, you test your tires in qualifying condition, in race spec, with high, low fuel amounts and everything, different kinds of bodywork. So we never actually know the exact potential of the car. Some people will save the best parts for the race, and I'm sure people have been doing that. They haven't put all their eggs in one basket. They've saved a few things in the bag. But when you look at it, in general, whoever's done the most mileage has the slightly upper hand on the rest of it because they have the most data, let's say.
Okay. Great. Well, we've talked about the new season, new cars, but what about the drivers? The men behind the wheel have had their say headed in to the opening day. Have a listen.
I think we're a bit in the dark, like everyone else, not knowing what other people have done. But for ourselves, we can be reasonably happy. We did, decent mileage. We didn't have any major issues with the car, so hopefully we can carry that momentum into the first race.
I didn't expect to be here on Thursday. Maybe I was planning to be somewhere. Eating more, getting more fat, whatever. Maybe not being here on Thursday, which is an amazing day in Formula One.
I think, if we're lapping at a quicker pace, then, things are coming at you faster. The corners, obviously the faster you go, the quicker corners approach you. And even with racing, if you're racing another car, you might have to respond or react quicker. From that side as well, it could be more difficult, more challenging. Fortunately, I'm still young, so my eyes can keep up with things coming at me fast.
So you've seen the rest. Now time to look at the driver who's currently rated as the best. Here's Lance Santos on why Lewis Hamilton is the man in pole position to take his 4th World Championship.
10 years is a long time in Formula One, and Lewis Hamilton has spent a decade at the very top of the sport. The Englishman lost his 4th World Championship last year through a combination of mechanical problems and a teammate hell-bent on success. But with Rosberg's retirement and an improved car, it's little wonder why Hamilton is the odds-on favourite to come out on top of the standings at the end of the season.
I can't want it any more than I already do every year. So I want right now just as much as I always have wanted it, which is a good sign. And so the driver's there, I feel fit, feel hungry, and I know that all my team also feel that, and especially all my fans as well.
Nico Rosberg pipped Hamilton to the title last year, and throughout the campaign, their relationship was spiky at the best of times.
I don't think I've ever missed a teammate in my life, because generally there's always another one that takes its place. So, no, I mean, I think it's definitely going to feel strange. And I mean, it already is, being down in the garage, seeing someone else in the car next to me.
In pursuit of his 4th title, Hamilton has eased off talk of catching Michael Schumacher's record of 7 World Championships. At 32 years of age, time remains on the British driver's side, but Hamilton is, as always, coy about his future.
I don't think about it a huge amount, but of course I do think about it at the beginning of every year, at the end of each season, particularly at the beginning of every season, when you're going through the tough training, how fit you are. Like I got in the car today and I'm like, I can still drive, so that's a good thing. I really don't know. At the moment, I don't know when it's going to be the time. Could be soon, could be far away. That's the exciting thing about life, I think. So.
Ferrari have assured everyone else that there will be a fight for the title this year. But with Lewis Hamilton in the driving seat for Mercedes, refreshed and renewed by a change of partner, it's hard to look beyond the Brit making history with a 4th championship.
So Jason, I think there really is no argument as to whether Lewis Hamilton really is the favourite or not. So as a driver, how do you stop him?
Well, unless there's a huge, dramatic, chaotic accident, I mean, it's going to be difficult.
Well, let's hope that there isn't.
Well, there isn't, obviously, but it'll make the championship more interesting. We can agree on that.
True.
I think you just have to, I don't know, it's too difficult. I mean, he's been with the team for a long time now. He's a winner. He is a real racing driver. I mean, it's going to be difficult to beat him. I'm not going to really extend this question that much because it's difficult to beat him. Simple.
Is there anyone who could potentially beat him?
Well, Nico did it. I mean, we have to agree with that.
But he's out of the picture now.
He's out of the picture. I mean, all he did, he wasn't the fastest, but all he did was to win as many, probably even less, but actually get more points. So all you have to do is actually get more points or more points than your teammate, let's say. But when you think about it, his first, obviously, rival is his teammate, Bottas. So Bottas will obviously do everything he can because he will have the same car. Maybe he won't feel as comfortable in the team because he's a new driver. But at the end of the day, whoever has the fastest car out there is going to have a chance of winning the most. I mean, so if Mercedes are the fastest car, he'll race against Bottas mostly.
Okay. Very interesting. Let's see if you're right. But it's not the only Formula One management that's changed. The calendar has also been overhauled. The Chinese and Bahrain Grand Prix swapped places in this season's schedule. And one of the most historic Grand Prix, Germany, was removed after hosting 75 races. The reason? The owners of the country's 2 circuits were unable to agree to commercial terms with management. So, Jason, there are 20 races to pick from this season. Which one sticks out for you as the most pivotal of them all?
I think the first 4 races, let's say until Spain, are the most crucial races because it all depends. That pretty much determines how much work you've done pre-season in terms of wind tunnel, engineering, testing, all that kind of stuff. So I think the first 4 races are the races you're going to earn most points if you're ahead of the game. So I honestly think, I really don't hope the teams, the second half of the teams in the grid will actually suffer because, when you're a small team, you do suffer from budget regarding how much research and development you can do, how much testing you can do, and that kind of stuff. So there could be a bigger gap at the first 4 races from the top teams to the back end, let's say. But that gap will get smaller and smaller through the season. But I really think the first 4 races are the most critical to get points.
So let's cross over to Madrid, where sports journalist Tahincigolu can help us pick through the calendar. Christina, so lovely to see you on the show. Now, walk us through the F1 calendar. Through a pundit's eye, which do you think are going to be the strongest, the most pivotal races throughout the calendar? Which 5 or 6 races do you think are going to make the most difference for all of the drivers?
I think this particular season is pretty difficult to say because, as you know, the season that is about to start is completely different to what we've seen in the past years. This season, F1 has suffered the biggest changes, the biggest revolution in the last 19 years. So aerodynamic is different, the cars are wider, even the tires are wider, but it's impossible not to talk and not to think about Lewis Hamilton. Throughout the season, he has a couple of tracks where he's really good at. It comes to my mind, for example, Austria. Also, it jumps to my mind, Canada. He has won 5 times there. And then digging a bit more throughout this season, I will also pay attention to what happens in Silverstone, in China, because Lewis has won 4 times there. Also, definitely Sebastian Vettel. It's somebody to keep an eye on. He has shown a really good performance, for example, in China, in Italy, in Singapore. So these 3 tracks are some tracks that he's really good at, and given the potential that we have seen of the Ferrari in the preseason, they're going to be quite strong.
Okay, well, let's go back to talk about Hamilton for a moment again. He won 7 out of the 8 races after Monaco last season, the only loss coming in that European Grand Prix. Do you think that the start of the season is a bogey for him? Is it taboo for him?
I don't think that the beginning of the season is what we could call the Achilles heel of Lewis Hamilton. It is true that he didn't have a really good performance at the beginning of the season in 2016, but in my opinion, it is more due to the fact that Nico Rosberg was having a really good beginning of the season, and that is a trend that continues what we saw at the end of 2015.
Okay, well that's where I wanted to go with this, because now that Nico Rosberg is out of the picture, and from a pundit's point of view, looking globally at the calendar, do you think it will go down to the wire like last season in Abu Dhabi in the last race, or do you think it's going to be wrapped up maybe by Malaysia, let's say?
It's pretty early to say so, but unfortunately, I don't think we will have to wait until the last part of the season, until November, or even until the last race in Abu Dhabi to see a clear candidate to winning the title.
Great, fantastic, Christina. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you, my pleasure.
$8 billion. That's how much it costs for Liberty Media to tear mogul Bernie Ecclestone away from his role as the head of the sport. Now, a new man sits in the throne. Here's Samantha Johnson with a look at the new owners.
He may only stand at 5'3", but Bernie Ecclestone was a giant in global sport. And now, after 40 years, Formula One is entering into a new era under new owners Liberty Media. And Ecclestone's replacement at the heart of the $8 billion takeover is Chase Carey.
I think what we need to do is make the races better and more valuable and figure out a way to grow them. So that's our goal is how do you make the races bigger and better and broader.
Although he failed to crack the US market, he successfully turned F1 into the biggest annual sporting event in the world, behind the Olympics and the World Cup.
I recognize this change is difficult for him. I mean, he's been in a role for most of his adult life running it, so I'm not naive about the difficulties, but I'm running a show.
Carey may be running the show, but can he succeed where Bernie failed and seduce Americans into falling in love with Formula One?
It's the burning question for every sports promoter. How do you crack a market like the United States? It is, after all, the world's largest and most lucrative television audience. So here's our editor-at-large, Craig Kapitas, with how to make it big in America.
Well, the question really is, will Liberty Media's multi-billion-dollar purchase of Formula One end in a car crash or not? And the only market comparison we can make on this issue is with the other favorite automotive sport in the United States, NASCAR. And we look at the numbers. Now, the average price of a ticket to get into a NASCAR race is $92.16. The average price to get the cheapest seat at an F1 race is over $137, and that event goes on for 3 days. Who has the time? The joker in all of this is that NASCAR's numbers are going down. So part of Liberty Media's strategy has to be to attract NASCAR people to F1 events and keep them there for 3 days, where if they want a decent seat, the average price is $626. The question is, can they generate the capital from the large American market to make their investment pay off? And the checkered flag has not dropped on that yet.
So Jason, we all know that NASCAR is the king of motorsport in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Formula One, though, does have a chance now that they have American owners to really crack into that market?
Well, owning is not enough. You really need a driver to be able to, make that country proud. But when you think about it, do they like drivers? Not really. There are enough drivers in NASCAR, IndyCar, and all that kind of other championships that are in the States. But I don't know. It's really difficult to say. I mean, you need a driver.
They really need a driver to get behind.
You really need a driver. I mean, from the entertainment side, it can be as entertaining as the American people want, for sure. But when you don't have that one person to support, it's really difficult to actually, support the whole, let's say, support, I'm going to say. So you need a driver, simple.
Okay, well, let's talk about Turkey, since we're here in Istanbul. Do you think that there's any chance now that there is a vacancy, any chance that the Grand Prix could return here?
There's always a chance. I mean, the circuit's still there. I mean,
it's in pretty good condition as well.
It's in very good condition. I mean, the new management does really look after it very well. And it's still in race spec. I mean, so there's no reason why it shouldn't come back. as long as as our government and the new management agrees on terms and conditions, I'm sure there's no reason why it can't return.
Great, and hopefully it does. Fingers
Indeed,
crossed.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining
welcome.
us. That is all the time that we have on this special edition of Beyond the Game. Thank you for watching and enjoy the new Formula One season.